Hello and welcome to Conquering Mount Scrapmore meets Anne from LearnHowToQuilt.com. We're here today to have a fun little sew date. So, Anne, say hello.
Hello, and I'm happy to be here with Brenda.
Yeah, I was excited. I was looking forward to all of this. I was just like, ooh, we can do this, we can do that. Yeah, I was just, and then trying to narrow down what I wanted to do for a project. It was like, yeah, I needed something simple to do. So, what are you going to work on today?
Well, I've got my scraps here, and I saw your balloon pattern, and I thought, well, I think I'm going to try that balloon. And I've tried to make one of those, and then I have this spool quilt behind me that one of your viewers wrote to me and asked if I'd make a pattern for it. So I started putting together a pattern. I thought I'd work on that too.
Yeah,
But
that spool quilt is just gorgeous, by the way. That's awesome. I liked how there's all the different fabrics in the thread part of the spool. That looks really cool. Have you ever done that with string?
well, I was starting to do something like that, and then I really like to use these. God, I can't think of selvages,
Oh yes, yes, yes.
and so these are I Spy spools because I really like I Spy things. And if you look on the edge of some of these selvages, they started printing little pictures on them now. So I was going to put some of selvages in between there also.
Oh, that's awesome. That actually does sound awesome. My we have a quilted table runner, and it's basically it was a quilt, a lap size quilt for a child. It was too small, and I figured, okay, we'll use it as an oversized table runner because you usually have a big family gathering or whatever. And the grandkids are using it as an I Spy, so they find little cocopellis and they find little cactuses and they find little. It's like it for hours where they're entertained by that quilt, and it wasn't made as an I Spy quilt, right? So it was like, I wonder if they would really like their own little I Spy quilt sometimes, but no, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. So you're going to be daring and make that hot air balloon. Wow.
Yeah, I've got your pattern right here. I cut it apart and
Yeah.
I've got some scraps, and I'm gonna make it a nice spy hot balloon, hot air balloon.
Very cool. That pattern, the centerpiece, yeah, it's like once you cut it, like I drew it so it would fit on a paper, right? But once you cut it, you gotta remember to leave that 1/4 inch on the both sides of that centerpiece. Otherwise, you can't sew it together.
Thanks for the reminder.
I found out that very quickly one day, and I was like, oh yeah, I probably should have put that in the notes. Oh well. Oh,
I
it's
think you said that on your, I think it's, you said that on the video, but maybe,
well, and then I don't know what size everybody considers a scrap or a string either, right? So, I mean,
Mhm.
the more sewing I do with people, the more I realize that my idea of a crumb and a string and a scrap is a lot different than other people's. So I'm kind of like, I guess I have to broaden my experiences a bit. Or start quilting with more people. That would.
Brenda, I've never heard them called crumbs and strings and crumbs, but that's a good name.
Oh, okay. Because it's that crumb quilt.
I'm going to add it to my, I have a little encyclopedia, and I'm going to add that to the encyclopedia.
they they go in and out of fashion, but it seems everybody, they jump on the bandwagon because they've got too many crumbs. This is why I'm doing a string and crumb series right now. I could not close my bucket of strings, and because I was throwing everything in there, like with crumbs and everything. Now I can close it, and I'm about halfway done. I'm halfway down, so I figured, okay, I've done something, at least. It's not where I want it to be, but it's better than nothing. It's better than having to sit on the plastic box and try and close the lid, you know, as you're bouncing down trying to get
I
everything.
know. You're very organized. Mine's just thrown all over the place.
Well, I don't know. Today you get one clean view. Yeah, some days are better than others around here when it comes to being organized.
So what are you working on there?
Well, well, I had a couple of things here. What I'm doing right now is flying geese, and I'm just going to paper piece them. But I am going to show you a project that I finished yesterday, and with flying geese. I saw this and I had to. I'm going to try and make this into a smaller block. So our guild.
Oh, beautiful.
Challenge. So my quilt, my blocks of the month, are all going to be gray, white, red, and black. So
It's like chevrons, but
yeah,
very cool.
it is just gorgeous. So this is called a Celtic cross, and it was March's block of the month, and it was all paper piece. And this ends up being a 12.5-inch square, just perfect, and just it fits. It's beautiful. I was going to redraft this and make it a 9.5-inch.
Why?
No, just for my own. I can do this. I know how to do this. So.
But what are you going to use it for?
I don't know. Well, it would be kind of a cool block for small piecing to teach people how to do small piecing. Do you get your fans asking for block of the months? No?
No. I like block of the month, but
Yeah, well, I mean, doing a smaller block, like a block of the month or a block of the week or whatever, like if you did it smaller, you could teach all sorts of, okay, today we're going to learn paper piecing. Today we're going to learn applique. Today we're going to learn, you know, that English paper piecing, or, you know, something like that, like just to have, okay, all of your skill building blocks, I guess.
I have a couple series like that. I have a series called Building Blocks.
Oh, yes.
I didn't make it block of the month though. They're just individual blocks. Everyone teaches you a different skill.
Yeah.
And then I have, let's see, Saturday sampler,
Yeah.
everyone, and then seasonal sampler, everyone.
Every month, yeah, I know.
It's a good way to learn. I think it's the best way to learn quilting if you're really interested.
Well, yeah, and I also, you know, I also like the idea of teaching people how to paper or like to hand piece too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another skill, you know, that people forget, that they don't, you know, they forget that, well, just because we have a sewing machine, like our grandmothers, some of them didn't have sewing machines. And they made beautiful things. But I don't know, trying to convince people to do hand sewing, sometimes you know, there's arthritis and everything else that kicks in.
Yeah, I used to sew by hand a lot more. My hands get all crumpled up after just the binding after about a half an hour.
Oh yeah. Well, I used to sew on bindings. I do that flange binding now. I sew it onto the back, flip it over, and then stitch in the ditch along the flange. That is so fast. I can finish. I had, what was it? It was a sew date we had here, and we ran pretty near all day. And I had something like 8 quilts to bind. I bound all of them using a flange method. Because, you know, through, you know, like all of them. I had all my bindings all ready to go and ironed out, and
I posted that on my website.
oh, the flange binding. Oh, good.
Yeah, because that's a good way to do it.
You know, if you need something fast, right? Not all quilts are going to be show ready, and you know, or like we're not going to all be in quilt shows or anything like that. Sometimes you make a quilt because a baby is coming, or you know. Speaking of which, I have a baby blanket here somewhere. I gotta go look for it. My friend's son had a baby boy, and I guess he's just a darling little cherub, and I got zero notice that he was coming. So I was like, oh dear.
That's what this is going to be. I've got, I don't have any more I Spy quilts hanging out. So I'm going to put one together. Is my sewing machine too loud when I have it on?
No, I don't hear it.
Oh, good.
Mind you, my old gal probably might make a little bit of noise. This is the first time she's been out since she came back from the sewing spa. So I'm giving her a test run today. And mine's not too loud.
Oh,
No. I don't know why I like my vintage machines. This particular black one here was my mom's. And
wow.
this so on. So yeah, it was kind of. I think it's kind of cool that I have it, but she gave it to my older sister first, and my older sister's kids just wouldn't leave it alone. So then it wasn't working because they thought it was a toy with a sharp, pointy thing. So then she gave it to me. I went and got it refurbished and got the because the kids play with the tension. It's just a nightmare sometimes to get it back. I got all the tension back, and it sounds pretty good. It sews beautifully.
I have an older machine that I'd like to sew with, but I don't quilt with it. And so I've got to take it out, put it back.
What is the make and model of your older machine?
It's a Singer featherweight.
Oh, wow.
Those are good machines.
Yeah. Yes, they are. And they're very popular with us quilters. And now they're worth a ridiculous amount of money. And then Lori Holt, I don't know where she takes her sewing machines, but she gets hers done with the red and the pink, and I think she has a real pretty robin egg blue.
Yeah, there's a man out here that he's always at the quilt shows. He takes them into like a auto body shop, and they paint them all those different colors.
Yeah.
Mine's not fancy.
Well, this one's got a few years wear on it, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Like I say, she still sews good. What they do at auto bodies, now somebody told me this, and I kind of believe them. The paint is charged either negative or positive, and the car or the sewing machine is the opposite, right? So the paint sticks to the metal, right? That's how it's painted so evenly. And I was like, very cool. I thought that was kind of cool that they figured out, the positive or chart. I think one is positive and one is negative. I can't remember which now, but yeah, they charge it so it acts like the paint acts like a magnet on the machine. You know how two magnets will just clap together really firmly. Yeah, and they get a beautiful finish then. We see them up here occasionally where we'll see somebody's sewing machine that's been painted rocket red or something. It's just like, wow. There was one lady, I was at a sewing date. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. Her sewing machine was British Racing Green with the speckles. I thought,
We've
wow.
got some with polka dots on them. They paint them like that, and then they have polka dots, and very nice.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do that to a sewing machine though. But well, who knows? So, what made you start your YouTube channel?
I was teaching adult ed, and I'd go home, and my students would call and say, I can't remember this. How did you do that? because they learned in class, and then the project would go home with them, and then the next week they'd come back. And so I started putting videos online
Yeah.
so they could see what the procedure was. And then I have a sister-in-law who gets very excited about the internet, and she talked me into having a website, of which it's hard for me to run that. But anyway, so that's how it kind of came into being.
Yeah, we're right now we're kind of the same story too, right? You have like students that you're talking to on Zoom meetings during the pandemic, teaching them how to quilt, and of course they invite a friend, and then they invite another friend, and next thing you know, it's like Thursday morning, and they're signing on to. It kind of grew, and then they were talking about it would be nice to have something to refer to when they were at home. Oh, okay, all right, we can try and figure out something, but to put a website up now, I'm like, I don't know.
It's
Well,
it's very confusing.
even to get it up and running now, I mean, it's like, oh my god, there's only the two of us here, right? So, and I was thinking the fastest way to get in touch with people to do stuff would be Facebook, but there's a lot of younger ones that aren't on Facebook anymore. They're just,
Mhm.
you know, I kind of, I'm kind of struggling with well, what do we do next, right? So, I know it'll come. It'll be fine, but
I'm listening to you, and I did this backwards. Oh, well.
it has
Let's see if I can figure it out. Let's see.
it has been said that paper piecing is the Ginger Rogers of quilting. Everything is backwards, and you're in high heels. So
Ah,
I know I do that too. I just Hey, I was gonna ask you, do you, when you're doing videos and you make a mistake sewing or something like this, do you show people how to fix the mistake?
sometimes I have some videos that say what went wrong with my whatever, a
Yeah.
series called What Went Wrong. And I put down all the mistakes that I made while making a particular project. And then I go over how you fix those. But I don't do that for everything. I just have a couple things like that. And I think it helps when you show your mistakes, so the other person won't make the same one as you did.
And yeah, and you got to teach, well, at some point you're going to have to teach them how to fix their mistakes too, right?
Right. Well, that's what went wrong. It shows a mistake, and then it shows how to fix them. Luckily, I can fix this mistake. At least I think I can. We'll
Yeah.
see. Brenda, I put something out here before I forget, because I heard you say not too long ago that you finger press because you can't find your ironing board. So see this little thing? It's a piece of wood. I bought it from Alex Anderson at a quilt show, and I don't think she made it, but it's made by hand. It's a piece of wood, and they bought the silver
Yes.
ironing board cover, or maybe they even bought an ironing board cover and cut it up. But they put a little padding. It feels like it's one or two layers of batting, and then they put this on top, and then they taped it down with this kind of fancy tape.
Huh.
But it's a nice little ironing board.
Yeah, it would be. It would be nice little thing to have about. They yeah, some of those ideas I see online, and I just like, wow, that would be cool. It would be nice to try this out or that out. But yeah, I what I do with my ironing board, I shouldn't say anything, but my ironing board becomes my place to throw everything. you have one of those little, these things? These little presser thingies
I've got one. Yeah.
that you kind of,
It's a good. My ironing board used to be like that because I used to have it in this room, but to get some steps in and some exercise, I put it all the way at the other end of the house. So every time I have to iron, I get up and walk all the way over there and walk back. But when it was in this room, they used to put, anyone that walked in the house put stuff down on that. So I know.
yeah, I hear you.
My neighbor put his drill on it. He came over to help my husband with something and he laid the drill down and it leaked oil. And I never noticed it till I went to iron, and that it was like a clear oil and it got all over.
No, oh no. Yeah. Well, I know myself, I'm terrible for, I stack stuff too. I shouldn't say anything, but I'm a stacker. You know, let's see how high we can stack stuff right before it falls. Maybe it was, what was that game that they used to play Jenga where they would,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I was maybe, you know, maybe in my past life or something, I was a Jenga winner or something, but let's see how high we can stack all this stuff. And I was like, ugh. But yeah, I'm trying not to collect too much stuff, right? So it's because it's, after a while, in here at least, I have to stay organized because I can't find anything and I get frustrated very, very quickly when I can't find something, and I know it's here, right? So I don't know, it's a weird thing. But I think it's, like I say, I say to be organized, but then I look at, I have, we bought a long arm last year, and I have yet to put a stitch on it. No thread has entered that sewing machine since we bought it, and it's in a room where there's so much stuff in there now, it's overwhelming, you know, to walk in there and try and clear it out. And I'm like,
Mhm. Well, here's the top of my balloon,
oh, is that ever cute?
even though I did it backwards. So let me work on the bottom.
Hey, you made it work. It's all good. That's the important part. You made it work, even though you sewed it on upside down. It's gonna be fine. That, yeah, I have done that I don't know how many times over the years.
Well, you know, when I do the strings or just sort of random on a foundation,
Yeah.
I'm usually not paper piecing. I'm just doing it on a piece of paper. So I didn't look for the numbers when I was putting those yellow strips on.
But it's gonna look adorable when you're done. I mean, you know. And it's a cute little block for kids, you know, especially if you're gonna throw what are they? I was told there are no such things as orphan blocks, but, and that term should probably not be used anymore, but okay. But there's all sorts of things you can do with like blocks like that, you know, like for like throwing them into an orphan block quilt.
I've got something to show you.
Sure, let's see.
This is what I do with little blocks from I Spy quilts. I call it my I Spy scroll.
Oh,
And they're just all little orphan blocks.
oh, is that ever cute?
And it works great when you're in the car with the kids. I give it away as little gifts for new babies or one for first year birthday, because they can play with it, you know, I Spy. And then the other thing you can do is you can do stories with it. And so, imagination. I saw a guy riding a bike, and then the next person says, after he ate ham and eggs for breakfast, uh, on his way to the biology lab or whatever. So it's a fun little thing to do, and they're all leftover little blocks or pieces from leftover little blocks.
Well, I sure collect a drawer full around here. Anything that doesn't quite make the grade, also ends up in there. But and sometimes I'll draft out a block and then I put it together and I look at it for a while and then I go, yeah, I don't like that. Oh well, that taught me something.
That happens a lot.
But that roll, that is so cool for little card or for little kids game. Well, here in Edmonton, Canada, Alberta, Canada, we have snow mold season. So we've had our 13th false spring and, of course, like our 14th winter. It's like, wow. So when everything melts and then it snows again, everything melts, it snows again. Well, after a while, the snow mold just gets to the point where you can't breathe.
So right now, is it hot or cold?
It's a beautiful sunny day out. We have no snow on the ground except in the shady parts of the yard. Nothing is coming up yet because our tulips and like even the early spring crocuses and daffodils and tulips, all that stuff they're smarter than we are because all the humans are going, oh, it's spring, and then the flowers are going, oh no, it's not. No, it's not. But yeah, further south they're starting to see their crocuses. Like Alberta's kind of in the middle, or Edmonton's kind of in the middle of Alberta. So Edmonton is considered the gateway to the north. So, to northern Canada. So, like in the south part of the province, yeah, the crocuses and all that are probably up already, but because they're a little more gentler climate. But yeah, here where we are here now, you don't plant anything until like the mid-May. You only put seeds in the ground, no bedding plants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you do hardy ones, not the ones that need a lot of babysitting and care. Well, you're in San Diego, right? You're in California.
No, I'm in San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay.
Well, outside of San Francisco. People come here and think it's going to be hot, but we're Northern California, so it's a moderate climate, but it gets chilly even in the summertime. I think Mark Twain said the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Well, I know if you're cold and damp, right? From
Cold and damp.
Yeah, being in Victoria in the wintertime, oh, Victoria is the lowest point on the west side of Canada, right? Like that. It's right at the bottom of Vancouver Island, and it's just off Washington, Seattle.
I went there for my honeymoon.
Oh, did you? Okay. So in the wintertime, it's cold and damp. And from Alberta, you get a much drier climate, right? So it's not as, it's not one of those, you simply can't put enough clothes on because everything's damp, right? Because of the climate, ocean, right? The humidity is way up there, so.
Unfortunately, even though it's damp here, we haven't had rain, and we don't get rain in the summertime. We get fog. So it's pretty dry.
Oh, wow. I went quickly through my pile here to see if I've got pieces that are big enough to sew onto a 3.5 inch. Of course not. Okay, we'll sew you on right here.
Brenda, when I'm paper piecing, I like to fold the lines all the time. I notice you don't fold the lines. I don't know how you do it without folding them.
Well, I've got them folding the, yeah, you can fold the lines as you're trimming, which marks your spot. But another thing I find, especially when I'm doing lots of fine, you remember these tools from making clothes,
Mhm.
tracing wheels, where you had carbon paper and you would mark your dart,
Perforates.
and I think they're called a tracing wheel. Do
Mhm.
you whip around and do a bunch of this stuff, and yeah, like you can get a lot of marking done very quickly. I found, right? Have you ever tried paper piecing with freezer paper?
I have, but I there's a bunch of different ways that you can work around it. One is, wait a second, I'm trying to think. You print it on there. I just did something before the pandemic with that. Now I can't remember.
Yeah, you print it on. You
On the
print
freezer paper.
with an inkjet printer because that's important.
Uh-huh.
Because wow, does it mess up a laser printer quickly?
Oh yeah. It'll melt.
I said, man,
I
really?
hope you didn't learn the hard way.
No, I didn't. But yeah, it's kind of. I'm not allowed to make printed copies here in this house. So yeah, but yeah, I just find the freezer paper for me, like it's fine if you're only making like 2 or 3 things, but if you're making a big, let's say where you need 100 pieces of something, like when you're doing those kind of projects, and freezer paper just isn't cutting the mustard, you know. I don't know, maybe it's me.
I usually just use regular paper.
Well, yeah, I just shortened my stitch length to, because on these old machines, I can shorten mine up to 30 stitches an inch. So I'm getting good perforation. So,
Now I remember what I did with the freezer paper.
okay, what?
I have a new printer, and that's why this new printer, I can't do it on it. I took super thin, oh, what do you put in your collars? The stuff you buy.
Facing?
Facing, super thin facing. And I ironed freezer paper to it. And I cut it 8.5 by 11. And then I put it through my printer. And then I pull the facing off. And what it did was it printed the pattern on the facing, and then you can see through it.
Oh, well,
And
that
you
one.
don't have to tear it out because it's so thin, you don't have to worry about it.
Did you do a video on that? You should.
I did, well, I was, but my printer broke and they talked me into this other printer. It won't work on this printer. So yeah, I should do it. Paper piece, it's fun to do it that way.
Yeah, like I say, I'm one that I'm not really fond of the freezer paper. I just find it cumbersome. It's one of those. Yeah, well, there's got to be a better way of doing it. So
Well, I find that once the first time I do the pattern is the hardest.
yes,
After I do it once and I get it down in my brain what's going to happen, and I kind of know what size pieces I want and all that stuff, then I call it mindless sewing. I stack them up and do them one after another.
yeah, I agree. And you can get a lot done in a day if you have to. Just by rolling them through.
Yeah, I like them for, I make cards with them,
Oh yeah.
and you can put them together to make a little quilt, but I make little projects with them.
Oh yeah.
And so that's a nice little gift or whatever to have, and you can make them up pretty quick.
Yeah, those postcards are really popular right now too.
Yeah, let me see. you can buy these cards with the windows in.
Oh yeah.
And then for pictures, and this is a, see, it's just a paper piece
Yeah.
pattern, and you just slip it in there, and then you've got a card to send.
Oh wow.
It's kind, you know, it's kind of,
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I have not seen that. I've seen where people make postcards and then the back of the postcard is printed and they glue on a piece of fabric that's been embroidered, and you know they're saying this is from so and so or whatever. Like those are some of those are just gorgeous.
yeah, no, I just take, I buy, you can buy those cards on Amazon, piles of like, I think, what I get, 40 of them, maybe, or the one I just showed you, I pick up at Michael's or craft store.
Okay.
And they're over $1 a card. Maybe if you get them on sale, $1 a card, but that's pretty cheap. And then you just put in your little paper piecing block, and just
Actually, yeah,
something different.
that's very cool. Actually.
I've got one. I need to make a pattern online for this. It's a present. It's a little box, like a present box, and that's a fun birthday card. And then I've got a Christmas tree one. And sometimes instead of the Christmas tree one, I'll put a back on it. You know, like make it like a little pot holder, but it's only about this big. And I put a little loop on it, put it inside the card. So it's like a little gift, you know, that they can hang on their tree, or they can put it on packages.
Yeah, I have friends that like doing those little sewing thing. What was it? One of my friends there was doing Kleenex holders. You know, the small purse.
Oh yeah, I
Stuff in. You stuff them inside this, you know, cute little holder, and it looks really nice. And
mhm.
yeah, like she was doing stuff like that. You know, she likes doing little quick projects, right? But
That Kleenex holder's fun. It's a good way to teach kids how to sew.
yes, actually, I what was it? Our guild put out this little challenge to teach everybody how to do English paper piecing. Okay, so we were all given 6 hexes, all the same size, and we were supposed to in a ring, a metal ring. So we were supposed to, you know, put all the, you know, stay stitch all the fabric around the hexes, and you know, and then sew all your hexes in a row, and then you know, and then everybody had, you know, stitching them by hand, so it would close it up to go through the ring, to go around the ring. And it was actually, I finished it, and mine was gray, blacks, and whites, and I figured, okay, this is kind of a cool little keychain. I gave it to my husband, and he still's using it.
Oh,
That was before the pandemic, right? I thought, what a cute little thing to have, you know.
yeah.
I mean, I knew how to do English paper piecing at that time, but it was just, you know, this cute little hand project to do while you were sitting in a meeting, you know. There were people there that were doing other very elaborate, lovely stitching to do, but yeah, I just thought, well, yeah, we could do something fun like this. That would be okay.
Those are good projects when you're on jury duty.
Yeah, well, I was sitting there thinking too, you know, that would be a cute little project to teach a child how to do some very basic whip stitching, right? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my oldest grandson, I don't know if he would be okay with handling a needle and thread yet.
How old is he?
Oh, he's 7. So, he's 7 in February. He's in grade 2. So I'm kind of like, he's smart enough to do it, but you know, don't know if he would like the idea of, you know, don't stab yourself, don't bleed on the fabric that we all tell each other. We tell ourselves not to do. I'm kind of wondering if he would, but
Well, I find that if they're interested, 7 is okay. If they're
yeah.
not interested, they got to be a little bit older.
Well, and the thing though too is you need something simple enough to keep them occupied, so you can teach them something very basic, right?
Mhm.
Like, as a kid, I was always crawling around, mom's fabric, stuff like that. I was always in there. As soon as they did anything to do with that sewing room, I was there. But like you say, not all kids are interested in that kind of thing. But well, I'll take up an easy little project like that for him, and maybe I'll get him to make a little keychain and give it to his teacher or his dad.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's I was a school teacher and mainly middle school, and that's when my kids would be interested when it got close to Mother's Day because they'd want to make a project for their mom.
Yeah.
So and my boys were always hooked more than the girls, which was kind of interesting. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Well, the kids we see now that are coming out of school, if they're not in a home ec class, they don't even know how to sew on a button. Right?
Yeah. Well, they don't teach home ec anymore here, at least not in my school district.
No.
What about Canada? Did they?
Well, I did. I was one lady had gotten a job as a home ec teacher, and she came here for some sewing lessons, and we went through the basics on how to thread the machine, and she was able to borrow one of the school's sewing machines so she could practice with it, and you know and we gave her a few survival tips for class. And one of them was, if you're not comfortable with that machine by the time you have to start teaching them how to sew, those kids are going to eat you alive. so so she was kind of like, yeah, I kind of figured that already. I got that down already. But yeah, so we taught her some basics, enough to get her to, she had some of the projects that they were going to teach for like grade 7 and grade 8, grade 9, right? So she was going to practice to see how that was, all of that was going to come together. And I thought, okay, at least she was getting herself ready and prepped for her teaching. But yeah, of course she comes in my sewing room, and this black Singer, this 301A from the 50s, is the one she sees, and she goes, that don't look anything like the one I've got. But it does. Trust me, it was nice to help her. But yeah, a lot of them, yeah, they go to a tailor to sew on. They take it to a dry cleaner or a tailor to sew on a button. And I'm like, wow, really?
My daughter had a bridesmaid dress that had to be hemmed. She lives in Texas, and she took it in and did not ask how much it was going to cost to have it hemmed. And I think it cost almost $100. I said, what?
The circumference times 2, right? Or they count the circumference. Yeah. Aye, aye,
I said, I hope you learn your lesson to ask before you ask the price, before you agree to anything.
Well, and was it that kind of material that you would dread hemming?
Yes, I'm glad that I wasn't nearby because I wouldn't have wanted. I don't even know if I could have done it. But still, that's a lot of that's a lot of money to pay for him.
Well, yeah, I know. And it's like, but personally, if it was a silk dress I don't know if I would want to be the one hemming it. You know,
Oh, I know.
yeah, just because I don't think it would be, silk is slippery to work with, and you're pinning every inch, and then you know what I'm saying? Like it would just be such a pain. Even when I sewed for work, like I made work clothes for myself and that, I don't think I would want to work with. I didn't work with a lot of silk because it was just too. It was a fabric that was too advanced for me.
Mhm. Every year when it got to be around prom time, they'd come to me with their dresses. Will you put a hem in? And I did some hems, but a lot of them I told them no. I just do not feel comfortable doing that. But my neighbor found a lady that would do the hems for the girls, and then they got her to make their dresses for them, and it was cheaper than buy. She was so cheap, it was cheaper than buying, and she did a good job. But one of the girls, she bought this fabric. She had to have it. Well, it was not fabric that you should make a dress out of. And when she was dancing, it all started coming unraveled.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, I know my oldest daughter, when she got married, she had to have her bride's gown shortened, right? And what had happened was there was I forget how many layers of that really fine like organza, and then it was taffeta or something like that underneath all of that, and it was just like it was a beautiful dress, but I was so glad I wasn't one picked to hem because it was organza. I forget how many feet around this dress was, when you held it up, because it was just that light organza or layers of organza. And I was like, yeah, no. And she wanted the lace on the bottom, right? So everything had to be shortened and the lace being pulled up.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was beautiful though, right?
Oh, it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful dress, but I was just like, oh, missed that bullet. Yay. Terrible thing to say, right? But yeah, it was they certainly don't appreciate it now. They don't appreciate anything because they can go to Walmart and literally get something for $3 brand new off the shelf, and you can't even buy buttons for a blouse for $3 anymore.
I know. Okay, I'm almost there.
You're almost there with the.
Yeah, but I've cut this. Oh, I didn't trim, no wonder. I didn't trim the sides down. I was gonna say, I'm off somewhere.
So what was the first thing you ever made?
I don't know. I was very young when I learned how to sew on the treadle machine
Oh
with
wow.
my grandmother, and I it was before I went to kindergarten. I would go down to she lived down the road from us. I would go down to her house and I would sit and sew with her, and probably doll clothes maybe.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of Barbie clothes. Yeah, my Barbie was definitely a clothes horse, and I got all of my the scraps from my mom. So I was very fortunate to have that.
And that's kind of I'm one of six, and so my mom and we were almost each one of a year apart, uh, and so my mom had her hands full, and that's why I would walk down to my grandma's, and that would be something that I would do. But I do know that the first clothing item I made was a shift, and I made that with my mom. When the kids went to bed at night, we'd get the sewing machine out on the dining room table,
Oh yeah.
and it was just, I don't know, plain dress, sleeveless. That grandmother and my mom never made quilts. My other grandmother did, but she made them when she grew up on a farm, and she made them when she was young, but she never made them again. And so it's kind of weird how I started quilting, because really nobody around me did it. I
Well,
just really like the shapes and the patterns and everything.
yes, I remember being mesmerized. I forget what happened. I think maybe my mom and dad decided to go out, and we were being babysat by the neighbor lady. And I distinctly remember this. She was making a bow tie quilt out of Fortrell. You remember Fortrell? And I was just enthralled at what she was doing. Anyways, the following week, she gave me a block because she had finished her quilt, putting her quilt top together. She was hand piecing, and she had one block extra. So she gave it
Oh,
to me to make a doll blanket. And I was just, oh wow! I was just always been impressed with geometrics. So the strong geometrics that's in quilting. So I think that's probably where I'm getting a lot of this from.
I made my first quilt in high school, mainly because I had these leftovers from all the dresses and things that I had sewn, and I just made it with squares, no rhyme or reason to it. I
Yeah.
don't know whatever happened to that, but that was a long time ago. But from then on, I was kind of hooked.
Yeah. I think nowadays, if you teach your kids how to sew, you won't have to worry about drugs or alcohol for sure. Is the price of cotton going up in the States the way it is here in Canada?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not buying any more fabric. I'm just going to use my scraps. That's what I say all the time. It
Well,
doesn't always work that way.
no, no, it doesn't. But yeah, the prices here are starting to climb. Mind you, I was talking to Jennifer from New Zealand, and she was paying $80 New Zealand dollars for a jelly roll. $100. She was paying $100 in New Zealand dollars for a jelly roll. Well,
Wow.
convert that to Canadian, it's like 85 bucks. Or no, yeah, 85 dollars Canadian, which would be like 60 American.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I haven't bought one for a while, but I think the last one I bought was about $30.
Yeah. Well, they're
And
really
that was in June or July of last year. I bought one.
well, everything is shipped, right?
Right.
So that's probably, even if I was to pick up a cheap jelly roll for her, something here and send it, it would cost me like $20 Canadian to send it. So we're no further ahead, right? So, which I thought was that's outrageous to pay. Like, I was like, wow. And I complain about the price of cotton up here in Canada. No, no more. No, I don't. There's other things.
So I finished my block, but it's a little cattywampus.
Ah,
So I'll take it apart later to fix it. But I think it'll do okay.
it's cute. I think it's cute.
Good I spy block. Okay, now I wanted to get. I started making these spools, like the spools in this quilt, but I've added some extras because I'm going to make these I Spy.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, this is more straight and this is more just whatever. Which way do you think looks better? Or no difference?
Well, you see what's behind me? This is the kind of thing I like. So I like the,
Believe it or not, this one was easier to do than this because when they're on an angle like that, they take longer pieces.
yeah.
And some of my I pieced this back together. Some of my pieces weren't that long.
Oh yeah. Well,
Let's see. Let me see. I got some cut here.
actually, I was gonna do some string block or spool blocks with my string blocks, my straight ones, right? So I'll show you what I mean. Here, hang on. Let me grab them. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's a bag of blue. Now all of these are just straight strings that are sewn together and pieced. Some of them are pieced together to make it long enough. So when I tilt it like this and then put them like this, it's 12 and a half inches high and 6.5 across, right? So I can make a skinny, narrow, blue spool. But I'm just kind of wondering how that would look. But
I think that would be okay.
yeah. Well, and
I've seen them with all different things. Yeah.
There's boat
Mm-hmm.
tar heels. What is a tar heel? It's got to be football. Oh, who knows?
It's a college.
College football.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got some, flowers and whatnot. So I put something like this beside it, the boats to give it a little more. But that's what I was thinking of doing with these. And then just making a bunch of blocks to have them ready to go into a quilt.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what if I need a bunch of charity quilt tops, then it's just a matter. Okay, I've got the blocks. Let's just sew them together and go, right? So, but I've got these in every rainbow of color.
You're so organized.
Yeah, I should have bought shears and Ziploc bags.
Oh.
I like your spools with the gray, because that's real. I like that gray look.
Well, I put this little thing on the end here, but it goes much faster if you just make it straight across.
Yeah. But it really does look more like a spool with that little divot.
I'm going to use this foundation to make sure I've got the right length on these strips, because I kind of cut them short, I think, for doing that sideways thing. Ugh, something's in the air.
Yeah, there's a really wicked head cold that's going around right now up here. Not COVID, but just a really bad cold. Gee, I might get a bunch done. Well, I won't get any done today, but I'll get a good
I'm
start.
always amazed what they put on these novelty prints. Where do they come?
I got a donation of Novelty Prints, and it had lemon fabric, it had peaches, it had strawberries, it had, you name it. It was food. Tacos, pizza. I just had to laugh. I laughed at it. Was just wonderful. And I was sitting there. The squares aren't very big. They're only about 3x4 or whatever. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to have fun with this.
This one has tacos and chips, and it says so cheesy.
Yeah.
And the taco's got a face on it, and the taco's winking at me.
Yeah, that's pretty cheesy, that's for sure. Yeah. What was that? I had got this red and white fabric, and and it was kind of in a hurry. You know, you're in a hurry because your husband's waiting in the car. That kind of a shopping moment in a quilt store, and I picked up this red and white fabric. It wasn't until I got it home that I realized it was little bacon strips.
That's what's on this one, bacon.
Yeah, well, you know, you gotta have fun with this, because it's one of these hobbies. It's kind of creative and, you know, it's just fun. I think this has helped me get through this pandemic that we've all gone through. You know, having something to do with my time.
Yeah, I'm hoping. They keep saying the numbers are back up. The numbers are back up, and I'm thinking, oh.
Yeah, well, we've had usually we winter in Tucson, right? And we have a little place there, and it's very nice, and kind of hoping that it would be nice to get back there someday because we've missed 2 winters now. But it's very encouraging to know that if I had to, I could survive a winter up here now again.
Oh, that's good.
And I've been keeping myself busy doing Zoom sew dates and, you know, this kind of thing. And one of the things I have really noticed, you know how we used to go out to gather at a hall or a community center or, you know, a sewing space, and you'd get there with your projects and your thread and your sewing machine and you forgot your foot pedal. And it's like, ugh. Or you forgot something, you know, or you got there and you got all revved up to go and you forgot your project bag or something. I would always forget something. Well, the last 2 years, I've been spoiled. I have not forgotten anything, and when I get bored with something, I just go to another project. It's kind of nice. But have you missed going out to sew dates?
You know, I actually like to sew kind of on with nobody around because I have to think. Like you can tell I can't talk, so and socialize. It's either one or the other, and so I usually sew by myself at home, but I'm in groups where we get together and we share what we're sewing on, or projects that, you know, sometimes we do projects together. Sometimes like we just did a bunch of baby blankets for a fundraiser that we had, and we'll share fabric and ideas. So I kind of I kind of like that more than just sewing together. But I do like taking classes though, and getting together with people that usually I don't know, but they all have different ideas. We have a lot of great quilters in this area. A lot of people that were they were right on the front lines when quilting started to be popular again. And some of them own stores, or some of them are in these guilds, and so they have contacts with some pretty interesting teachers and lecturers. So that's really nice. I noticed some of the fabric that I was picking out is from a gal named Jennifer Sampu. She's a big designer. Every couple years she gives a talk about how she designed this particular line or whatever.
Right.
So I like to go to things like that to, rather than sewing in a group, I guess.
Yeah, because sewing in a group, well, if you sew in the same groups, there's, what was the, oh, how is it worded? There's dynamics within groups, like the alpha females are usually will rise and dominate, that kind of, like those kind
Oh
of,
yeah, I
and it's like, well, you gotta try and include as many people as you can, because there's gonna be some shy little artist in the background, hanging out, hoping not to be noticed.
what kind of groups do you sew with, Brenda?
Well, I have a couple groups that I host that I was part of when I was down in Tucson, and I host Zoom members. And then there's a group there now at the Community League. I guess they're meeting. They're starting to meet here in Edmonton, and I'm like, I don't know. It's too early for me yet because our numbers are pretty high. And then I belong to both guilds here in Edmonton, which is kind of nice because it's a modern guild and then the traditional guild. So you get a good, you get a really broad spectrum of, what kind of quilts are out there. And you get, lots of classes and lots
We
of,
have guest speakers.
yeah. Our guilds are big enough to have guest speakers. So that's always nice. Sometimes we had a guest speaker there. I can't remember her name. And she came and talked to she did a Zoom presentation because our meetings are on Zoom. And she was talking about organizing your sewing space. So she was going to do a 28-day challenge on how to organize your sewing space so it would
That's
feel happy. And I'm like, probably need probably need something like that. Yeah, I probably do. Yeah. So I signed up for it, and I'm waiting on emails, so it'll be fine.
I took a class years ago from Mary Mashuda on setting up your sewing space. It was a great group. She made me think about things that I would have never thought about. And one of them is never put your sewing space in a room that people are going to walk through. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this sewing space is in a room that everybody walks through. I couldn't move it, but that was anyway.
What was it there? Did you see what was it? Becky Goldsmith. She was showing how her sewing.
She's from here.
Yeah, how she was showing how her studio is designed and all this stuff. She's just got a tiny little hallway space. Like her space is a lot smaller.
I think she's friends with Mary Mashuda.
Oh, is she? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think they might have even some books. I'm getting mixed up. No, I think those two are. Okay. Here, you see my design wall here?
Oh, yeah.
So my husband did this.
Oh, wow. Oh, very cool.
So they all move, back and forth.
And it keeps you protected from the sun. Is that a very cool idea?
And it's batting. There's a layer of batting in here. And then we covered it with flannel so that, it just, well, I pinned this one up, but these just, most everything just sticks. That was an idea that I got from her. That was a good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm sewing here with this way up high. I usually don't sew over here. I'm on the other side of the room, but it's easier to set up this Zoom thing this way. But that's number one thing. Don't be sewing like have it at a comfortable position and everything.
Yeah, I was following. Oh, what is her name? Anyways, she talks about the ergonomics of sewing and how everything has to be the right height, the way you sit, your chair, and then taking stretches and doing all this. When I'm by myself, yeah, I remember to do all that, but when I'm sewing with somebody else, no, I forget. It's okay. It's okay, I forget. It's fine. So you're working on a purple spool block, right? So
Correct.
oh. And are you using 3-inch or 3.5-inch strips or?
These are 3.5-inch
Oh wow.
strips. But I found that if I wanted to put a bunch of I Spy stuff in, I needed to have more than just 3. So that's why I started the different strips.
But you know what? It's gonna look cool. It really is. It's gonna look wonderful when you're done. Yeah, I like that scrappy. I like the scrappy thing, but I'm finding now, if I limit my palette when I'm doing a big scrappy quilt to, let's say, like 2 or 3 colors, maybe 4, then I'm happier with the all over effect, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, years ago, I saw this, I don't know where it was, a quilt that was solids, like let's say red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Solids. Then it had red, white, and blue, same quilt, red, white, and blue, tone on tone, same quilt, red, white, and blue with one kind of bigger print. And it went all the way across the spectrum. There were half a dozen or more quilts, same pattern, same colors, except the fabric went from solids to just like the wildest prints you ever want to see. And they basically said, hey, all of these quilts look great. It's up to you to decide which do you like a whole scrappy look or no. So I kind of like it scrappy, although I can go either way. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting.
I very much agree with that, though. That is very, very true. It's up to what you like. I was mentioned to a viewer. She said she didn't really like the scrappy quilts where every color under the sun is in there. They didn't speak to her. But I told her, I said, have you tried limiting your scrappy quilts to, say a light neutral, and your favorite color? Because you might like that, you know. So we'll see. We'll see if she replies back.
Well, we always called that a controlled scrap.
Yes.
Where you've got a rule. Instead of anything goes, my rule is I can only use white and blue, and the blue has to be navy blue or whatever. The more rules you put, the more it tones it down.
And if you don't want like navy in there, then you say, okay, medium blues, right? Medium blues that are more centered, not leaning to purple or not leaning to green, right? Then all of a sudden, yeah, you've got a very eclectic looking quilt. I made a quilt for my younger sister, and this was a while ago now, and it's still on her bed, and it's got it was red, all the different reds. I threw every red I think I had at it, red scrap at it, and black, white, and gray. No, white and gray. It was just white and gray. And that quilt just, wow. Because everything else makes and I stayed with a medium to light gray, so it didn't overwhelm, that sometimes a dark gray might overwhelm a red.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she loves red, let's try this. And it worked. It worked out really good.
I took a class from a gal years ago. Her name's Angie Woolman. She's in the area here. And she's a wonderful artist and quilter,
Oh
but
yeah.
uh, the classes that she did were color. Each class was called like Color Me Green. You usually did about 3 different projects, and each one you learned something different about color.
Yeah.
And anyway, she was really good about mixing up fabrics, making scrap quilts with different colors and how to sort of control it a little bit. One thing I learned in that class was that if you want to tone something down and you don't have enough fabric, to turn the fabric over and use the wrong side.
Well, you buy both sides, of course. That makes absolute sense. I have told that to people too. When you bought both sides of it, you can make the perfect color just by doing X. Yeah. Lots of times when I'm buying fabric, I'm looking for fabric that's a little, not white on the gray goods, right? Like you flip it over just to see what the other side looks like. It just might be a smaller variation in the shade, but not, like white. Stark white.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I look for too. You know, I'm interested in seeing that block that you're working on.
Okay, hold on a second. I added some selvages to it.
That's cool.
And that's what I wanted to do on those. And I put this white on the edge, forgetting to add, but I can go back and take it off. My friends saved their selvages for me, although I told them no more. I had a whole room of selvages. I kind of went through and picked out the ones I liked the best.
There was
But
Judy saving selvages, and she was going to make them, just give them a quick sew across to join them.
mhm.
And what she was going to do is use them for crocheting bath mats.
Oh, neat.
And I thought, okay. And then they
I,
asked, "Save your salvages," and I went, "No, I'm not doing that." I saved for dog beds, and I saved and I had a little small space in here, this room, and by the time we got around to making dog beds, we made 7.
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuffing. So I figured, no, we're not saving that kind of stuff anymore.
So here's the selvages, and see, I like to save the ones like this one has mice on it,
Oh, they were cute.
and this one they have I Spy stuff on them. So
Oh,
I was thinking about making them go in different directions, and in here, but I need to find some more. Like this one has little penguins on it.
oh, that is adorable. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Did you finish the block?
No.
Oh,
Here, show you what I've got so far. So I've got 2 more flying geese, but that's
okay.
another day. But I did look at the time here, and it's like, wow, that just, boom, it's gone. Well, Anne, it was delightful to sit and sew with you today. I really wish we had thought of doing this sooner.
Happy that we did this. It's something different for me, but it was very good. I learned a lot today.
Okay, so the big question is, what was it? The big question. Oh, UFOs. Are we going to admit to our UFOs? No. Okay.
I got some done during the pandemic though. That was my job, to work on putting together these quilts that have been sitting there, some of them for almost 20 years. But
Oh wow. Yeah.
so So I'm happy about that, but I still got a lot more things to do.
Well, I find my UFOs, I'm sitting piece together quilt tops, right? So I need to get the long arming room cleaned out and start quilting them, right? Because I mean, the charity I'm quilting them for really probably needs them. So I'll get there. I'll get there. But anyways, it's been just a blast sewing with you today. I really enjoy this. So I guess we should say goodbye. So you say goodbye first because your subscribers are here watching this too. So
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks. And I will be checking that your channel. I love the scrap quilts that you make, and I love your personality too. So thank you very much.
well, thank you, Anne. It's been fun. I have watched you forever, and I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity to sit and sew together. And I do hope everybody who's watching this is having a fabulous week, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.